We're going to begin this morning with the latest on that travel outlook, of course, as millions of Americans are set to hit the road for the holiday.
Yeah, it is cold outside for East Coasters. Even Florida is chilly. So NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us right off the bat this morning with a look at the forecast. Hey, Bill, good morning.
Hey, good morning. And, yesterday was just ridiculous. I don't know how it was around a lot of other areas of the country, but the roads were just crazy around New York City and where I live in New Jersey. So I think a lot of people were trying to jump on this travel early. So, the weather's fine, but it doesn't mean, our systems can only handle so much volume. Today, cold, obviously. It's cold all the way down into Georgia this morning. When you see that, like, Florida and the Panhandle is in the mid-30s, that's chilly. Panama City's at 37 degrees. So even by Florida midwinter standards, this is a cold air mass. But it'll be sunny this afternoon. And with the winds lighter than yesterday, I think we'll have even less airport delays today than yesterday. We will see some late-day rain developing in areas like Little Rock, towards Tulsa possibly. But again, that's not going to cause many airport issues or issues on the roads, and a tiny bit of snow in the Rockies. So heading to the airports early today. Airports I have colored in green. I do not expect any weather impacts at all. Areas in yellow, maybe very minor issues. Windy conditions, Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, possibly some areas of light snow, Salt Lake City and Denver. But again, this is about as good as it possibly gets for a weather forecast. Then on Thanksgiving Day, and I know some people travel in the morning too, heavy rain will be breaking out in coastal Texas, along with some thunderstorms. So from Corpus Christi to Brownsville, back up to Victoria into Houston, Beaumont, Port Arthur, those areas could have some issues. And then as far as rainfall forecasts go, possibly about 1 to 2 inches there from Houston to Victoria. It's not going to be enough for any flooding, but you wouldn't want to be driving in that. And the parade forecast, guys, still looks great on Thanksgiving. So I've done my part. Everyone looks like they should be able to get to their destinations. Getting home will be a different story. We'll cover that later in the show. But I may be talking snow for a bunch of cities in the Northeast for the first time this weekend. Stay tuned for that.
All right. Thanksgiving first, though. All right. Thanks, Bill.
You said heading home. Thanks, Bill.
Yes.
All right, now let's talk about that travel outlook as millions of Americans get ready to hit the road and the sky for the holiday.
Yeah, more Americans are expected to fly this Thanksgiving than at any other point since the pandemic began, and on the roads, which is how most Americans are getting around this holiday. AAA forecasts the number of drivers will get close to pre-pandemic levels. That means you could hit some traffic on your way to that turkey dinner. WNBC reporter Tracy Strahan joins us now for more on the traffic outlook. She is at a service area on the New Jersey Turnpike. So, Tracy, good morning. How are the roads looking this morning where you are right now?
Well, let's just say we are not alone along the New Jersey Turnpike this morning. We've seen a steady volume of travelers hitting the road since before sunrise here. And when they do hit this gas station, they're going to be paying an average of $3.50 a gallon. Now, that's actually higher than the national average, $3.40. Gas prices certainly the focus of this Thanksgiving holiday travel season. It was just yesterday that President Biden agreed to release the petroleum barrels, 50 million of them in reserve, and that's something that's actually pretty rare. It's something that's done to lower gas prices in times of war, maybe during natural disasters. This time around, it's only to lower gas prices. It's not something that these travelers may end up seeing, however, because they say it won't hit and possibly until mid-December, possibly the end of December, closer to Christmas.
Yeah, so Tracy, I mean, gas prices are on everyone's mind. What are the prices at the pump like right now where you are, and how much do we expect that to impact whether people hit the roads this holiday?
Well, brace yourselves, depending on where you are. Here where we are along the New Jersey Turnpike, $3.55. Keep in mind that rest stops traditionally higher than most gas stations. And again, that national average, $3.40, it doesn't seem to have an impact, however, on travelers so far. AAA predicts out of the 53 million people traveling this year, 90% of them are opting to hit the roads, possibly indicative that we're still in the midst of the pandemic.
And while most folks are driving, some are going to be flying this holiday. So what should those folks expect to deal with at airports around the country this holiday weekend?
There could be some pre-turkey headaches at the airports. Now, we were just at Newark Liberty Airport yesterday. TSA is where people are really preparing to have some problems. Now, keep in mind, TSA had to comply with that federal mandate starting this Monday that all workers had to be vaccinated. They do have 93% compliance, but still people were bracing themselves for really long lines and bottlenecks at security checkpoints. TSA says they are prepared. They prepared to screen about 2 million people in airports every single day through Sunday.
All right, Tracy, thank you so much, and happy Thanksgiving to you.
Now, as millions of people hit the road to celebrate Thanksgiving, experts are urging travelers to take all possible precautions as COVID cases quickly rise across the country. While cases this year are well below what we saw in 2020, more than 30 states are seeing an uptick in infections. This rise comes as officials say they expect Thanksgiving air travel to approach pre-pandemic levels, as we just heard. Doctors are now calling for all eligible adults to get the COVID booster shot as soon as possible to maximize protection against the virus and to avoid another COVID surge as we approach winter and post this holiday season. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Uche Blackstock joins us now for more. Dr. Blackstock is an emergency medicine physician and the CEO of Advancing Health Equity, and of course, someone you recognize on the show. Dr. Blackstock, good morning. So cases, as we just mentioned, across the country are on the rise in about 30 states as more people start to head out the door, cross those state lines, be indoors with their family. Now, we have even heard from people like Dr. Fauci kind of giving the green light for Thanksgiving celebrations, saying that's what they're going to be doing. But of course, some limitations. So just walk us through some things we should keep in mind, how we should decide who to invite to our parties, what type of precautions we should be taking.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Savannah. And I think it's possible this year to have a safer Thanksgiving than last year because we have more tools in our toolbox. Obviously, people can be vaccinated. So you want to make sure that whoever you're socializing with is fully vaccinated. People who are fully vaccinated and eligible should have received boosters. The other tool we have are rapid tests, and rapid tests are pretty amazing for determining who is not only infected but infectious, who has the ability to pass on the virus to someone else. And that is a test that you can take right before you see loved ones to ensure that you don't infect them. And so, again, it's really using a bunch of these tools together. You can also open up windows and doors, bring in air purifiers, make sure that you have improved ventilation in indoor settings to make Thanksgiving as safe as possible.
And Dr. Blackstock, you mentioned that it should be with people who are vaccinated, and we've been talking about these difficult conversations that sometimes come up at family gatherings. I think this year is one of those new ones that we're dealing with. Are you vaccinated? Are you not? I mean, is your advice that people who are not vaccinated within a family should not be there for Thanksgiving dinner? Is it you should be masked? If so, how do you handle something like that safely?
Right. And I think everyone is going to take their own personal risk. I think for me, I would not feel comfortable spending Thanksgiving with someone who was not vaccinated. If people really do want to spend time with their unvaccinated relatives, they can have them take a rapid test before they see them. They're about 98% accurate. So again, we do have the tools for a safer Thanksgiving, but if you're going to be spending time indoors, you want to spend it with people who are fully vaccinated.
I think that testing reminder is a really good one, too. Still a tool that we have, still something that we can absolutely be using to help, especially with getting together. Doctor, I want to ask you specifically about kids. COVID cases are rising among children. According to the CDC, child COVID cases have gone up 32% in the last 2 weeks. Right. Of course, we do know now that we do have this vaccine that children are eligible for of a certain age. What do you make of that rise, and what do parents need to know?
Right. I mean, I think that rise is incredibly concerning, but it just shows that the Delta variant, the virus, will go to and infect people who are not vaccinated. And we still have a substantial number of children, especially 5 to 11-year-olds, who are not vaccinated. So I would encourage parents to continue to talk to their pediatricians, family medicine physicians, and healthcare professionals about any questions they have about getting their children vaccinated. We know these vaccines are safe and effective, and we can help decrease those numbers by getting more children in this age group vaccinated.
Dr. Uche Blackstock, thank you so much. Info we need as we head into this holiday. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
As we mentioned moments ago, just as millions of Americans prepare to hit the road for Thanksgiving, the Department of Energy is taking a rare step to address rising gas prices. President Biden announced yesterday the federal government is releasing oil from the nation's Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
The impact is real, but the fact is we've faced even worse spikes before. Just in the last decade. It will take time, but before long, you should see the price of gas drop where you fill up your tank.
NBC News correspondent Josh Letterman joins us now from Nantucket, Massachusetts, where the president and first lady are spending Thanksgiving. So, Josh, this is a big move to try to solve a big problem. The average cost per gallon is up over $1 from last year. So just how long will it take for Americans to see these prices start to drop? And what else did the president say in those remarks about this yesterday?
Yeah, big move and a pretty unusual move at that, Joe. It's not going to be immediate. It takes a while for oil supplies to work their ways through the system. And so most economists say we won't likely see any impact from this if it does actually have the desired effect of bringing down prices at the pump for another couple weeks into sometime in December, hopefully in time for folks to be heading out onto their Christmas holidays. We've actually already started to see oil prices start to decline a bit, but that has not yet translated into lower prices for the actual gasoline people are buying at the gas pump. And that's one of the reasons that President Biden has also asked the Federal Trade Commission to look into whether there could be some price gouging going on here, whether the oil companies are actually declining to pass some of those savings in terms of lower oil prices on to consumers in the form of lower gas prices. President Biden, as he was addressing those efforts to rein in costs yesterday, also spoke about his administration's broader efforts to tackle inflation, talking about how his Build Back Better agenda he believes will actually help reduce prices over the long term.
Josh, I also have to ask you about the president's workplace vaccine mandate. It's still facing some legal challenges. The Justice Department requested an emergency ruling to try to get the rule through. So briefly remind us who this mandate would impact and where do things stand with it this morning?
So this is a mandate that would hit all employers that have 100 or more employees. It's about 80 million workers estimated to be affected. They'd be required to either be vaccinated or undergo weekly testing. Now, the Biden administration is saying this is still an urgent matter and that even delaying implementation of this mandate would lead to thousands of hospitalizations or deaths. They are asking the court to say, look, if you're not going to let us go full bore with the vaccine mandate at this time, at least allow the portion of this rule that requires masking and weekly testing for those who are unvaccinated. Now, at any point in time, the Sixth Circuit could respond to this, but ultimately, this is likely to go to the Supreme Court.
And Josh, you're in Nantucket, where the president and first lady will be spending Thanksgiving. So what are their holiday plans?
Well, they have nothing official on their schedule, so hopefully it'll be a quiet time for them. But, you know, this is actually a long-time tradition for the Biden family. Jill and Joe Biden, dating back to when they were first dating, had their first holiday as a couple here in Nantucket in 1975. We saw them get off the plane last night with a whole slew of grandchildren. We knew that from President Biden's book that one of his favorite activities to do here on Nantucket is to go shopping. And he says that every single member of the family gets to pick out one gift that President Biden will cover during his Nantucket holiday, Joe.
All right. Sounds good, Josh. Thank you so much.
Jury deliberations are resuming this morning in the trial of 3 men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery.
Still no verdict in the case. Jurors deliberated for 6 hours yesterday after the prosecution delivered closing remarks and urged them to convict.
They know exactly what they did, and they know why they did it. It's not a mystery to them. When you come back with your guilty verdict, all you're doing is telling them, we know what you did too. And we're going to hold you responsible for it. Because guess what you did? You turned this young man into that young man. That's what you did. For absolutely no good reason at all.
NBC News correspondent Cal Perry is outside the courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia for us, and NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos is right here on set with us. Good morning to both of you. Cal, I'll start with you there on the ground. So we just heard part of the prosecution's final argument to the jury in that little soundbite there. Walk us through some of the main points in her rebuttal and the message she wanted to get across ahead of deliberations.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. I've got it sort of in 3 main points. The first was defining that citizen's arrest law for the jury, at least sort of what the prosecution and the state defines as that citizen's arrest law. In the state's mind, the citizen's arrest law is a felony that you witness in your presence. She wanted the jury to take that home with them, at least into deliberations. That for the state is going to be key. The second thing was about self-defense. Basically, her point is you cannot claim self-defense while initiating an attack. Take a listen to a little bit more when she speaks about self-defense.
In this case, they committed 4 different felonies. including the aggravated assault with a shotgun. They started it. They do not get to claim self-defense. And then, of course, provocation. You can't force someone to defend themselves against you, so you get to claim self-defense. This isn't the Wild West. No. So there's 3 instances where the defendants don't get to claim self-defense, and they committed all of them.
Finally, I think she wanted to make it clear, and she did make it clear, that the state believes these men should all be treated equally, connected equally in this crime. That was in direct response to the defense kind of separating out William Roddy Bryan, who, as his defense attorney said, was in that last pickup truck, only had a cell phone. I think really trying to sort of make a delineation between him and the McMichaels. Savannah?
So, Cal, Thanksgiving is tomorrow, of course. So what is the schedule like for these deliberations, and what's the mood like for Arbery's family as everyone waits for the verdict?
You know, we heard from Arbery's mother yesterday, and she was actually optimistic about the verdict. Take a listen.
I think Linda did a fantastic job. I think that she presented the evidence, again, very well. I do think that we will come back with a guilty verdict. And I want to leave you with this. God has brought us this far, and he's not going to fail us now. Amen. We will get justice for Ahmaud.
As for the schedule, Joe, the jury will deliberate today. If there is no verdict by the end of today, they'll take tomorrow, Thanksgiving Day off, and be back Friday morning. For what it is worth, and I leave it to Danny Savals to kind of read into juries. Yesterday, the jury actually stayed an hour longer than they needed to, saying that they were close to a verdict. We'll see, obviously, today if that's still true.
All right, thanks, Callum. Perfect segue. Danny, let's bring you in here now, and let's talk about exactly what it is first that the jury is deliberating here. Each of these men faces 9 charges. Walk us through them and kind of tell us, are some here more straightforward? What is this?
Yes, malice murder is pretty straightforward. It's essentially intentional murder or intent to cause serious bodily harm. The more complicated is felony murder. And felony murder is a death that results in the commission of usually an inherently dangerous felony. The predicate felonies here are felonies like aggravated assault, and aggravated assault is something where you have your vehicle and you almost hit somebody. Another felony is false imprisonment. Hey, I'm cutting off your avenue of escape. I am keeping you in one place. False imprisonment. If a death results from those felonies, then you can have felony murder. It's a very complicated legal concept, but it's rooted in the public policy that we say in America, look, if you're going to go out and commit dangerous felonies, burglary, arson, rape, robbery, kidnapping, then if a death results, it's as if you might as well have expected a death to result. So we'll say the intent is there for all intents and purposes.
So quickly, can you say at this point, whose shoes would you rather be in right now?
I would always, I'm a criminal defense attorney, I would always rather be in the state's shoes. They have the power of the full government behind them. A defendant is always the underdog. I don't care what the burden of proof is for the prosecution. Prosecution has the stronger case here so far. It's an uphill battle for the defendants. But one last thing, William Roddy Bryan, do not be shocked if he is acquitted, because he has a very different set of liability than the others.
Dale, Danny, Cal, thank you both so very much. We appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. And the man police say drove his SUV into a holiday parade in Wisconsin appeared in court for the first time since the tragedy. Darrell Brooks was formally charged yesterday with 5 counts of intentional homicide. The same day prosecutors announced a 6th death. Take a listen.
Today we learned of another death of a child related to this case. We do expect a 6th count for first-degree intentional homicide to be issued or added, to this case.
NBC News correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now from Waukesha. Megan, good morning. So what can you tell us about this 6th victim? I'm sure viewers are seeing here on their screen an 8-year-old boy. What do we know here? Just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Absolutely heartbreaking, Savannah. Good morning. Yeah, 8-year-old Jackson Spark, rather. He passed away yesterday, just as this suspect was making his first court appearance. We know that he underwent brain surgery on Sunday, and we also know that his 12-year-old brother was also among the children that were hospitalized. We know that there is a GoFundMe page that a family member made. We know that there's a church here in this community that is also asking for prayers. Possibly the church that his family belongs to. But certainly this is a community that is grieving, and just another devastating blow, knowing that an 8-year-old boy has tragically lost his life. Savannah?
It is. It's just so tragic, Megan. Let's now talk about the suspect. He has an extensive criminal history. It has, of course, come into focus in the wake of this tragedy. Tell us first what happened during his first court appearance yesterday.
Right. So Darrell Brooks appeared in court, obviously, for the first time yesterday. And the prosecution laid out the case as to why he should remain in jail, detailing that criminal history, the extensive criminal history that he has dating back decades. Also telling the court for the first time where we learned information that this 8-year-old boy tragically lost his life, saying that while they are asking for 5 counts of intentional homicide, they also are expecting to add another charge because of the death of this young boy. And it certainly appeared as though in that moment this suspect began to sob. But the judge made very clear that he is setting an unusually high bond for him at $5 million. It is likely that Brooks will remain in jail until his trial. Savannah?
And now investigators do believe that he drove into the crowd on purpose. Does that mean there's any word yet on a motive?
You know, that's what this community wants to know. Why would this person allegedly do the actions that he is charged with? What we know is that he was fleeing another incident that was connected with a knife. Police here have made very clear that they wanted to clean up the rumors that they were chasing him. They tell us that, in fact, was not the case here. But as to the fact of why he did this, that's what people want to know. We've talked to several witnesses who say he had ample opportunities to stop, and he didn't. All the witnesses that we've spoken to say that it looked like he did this on purpose. He knew exactly what he was doing. But the big question that remains is why didn't he stop? Savannah?
Megan Fitzgerald in Waukesha for us this morning. Thank you so much.
New details are emerging in the death of Brian Laundrie. The Florida Medical Examiner's Office that conducted the autopsy said Tuesday that Laundrie died by suicide from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The attorney for the Laundrie family said they were informed of the cause of death yesterday. The full autopsy report won't be released to the public until law enforcement wraps up its investigation. Laundrie's remains were found inside a Florida nature preserve last month. Police were searching for him following the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito. Authorities had named Laundrie a person of interest in the case.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.